Hey YouTube, the John Vanderveer here. This, I guess, will be my first video on foreign policy, foreign relations, anything having to do outside the U.S. Um, Today is October 20th, and it marks the death of Muammar Gaddafi by uh, some rebels over there in Libya, some insurgents. So I'm going to make a political prediction. I wouldn't consider myself an expert on political science yet, but it is my double major. I'm in the process of studying, so I want to make a prediction. Later on, I'll look back and see how that went. So now that Gaddafi, who was an autocrat, was killed, the United States, the UN, and other powers that be are pushing for a democracy in Libya. And I believe this will be initially successful, but I believe the Dark Brotherhood will overtake it and institute some form of Sharia law. And I'm making this prediction because the media has by and large not paid attention to the strong hand that the Muslim Brotherhood has played in the overturning of Gaddafi. And actually, they don't talk about the Muslim Brotherhood at all much. And when they do, they say that it's an obscure obscure fringe group of Islamic radicals. Well, they are Islamic radicals, but they're not obscure or fringe. Actually, they're the largest and oldest political group for Muslims, and they have millions of members, most of which are living in the Middle East. And let me read you, I'll put the link in the description, an excerpt from a story from the Blaze website. They're one of the few media outlets that actually talk about the Muslim Brotherhood with integrity. So this was posted on February 21st, 2011. And all the way back in February 1st, they were reporting on how the so-called spiritual leader of the Muslim Brotherhood, and this guy, I hope I say his name right, Yusuf al-Qaradawi, he was calling for the assassination of Gaddafi. He says, whoever in the Libyan army is able to shoot a bullet at Mr. Gaddafi should do so. And later he says that the Libyan soldiers should not obey orders by Gaddafi to essentially put down the protesters against Gaddafi. So in other words, he's encouraging these protesters to overthrow Gaddafi, and this is way back in February. And so if y'all don't know about the Muslim Brotherhood, I mean, you can go research it, but I'll give you a quick synopsis. Here's why it's worrisome. Not just because they're Muslim. If they were just Muslims, some people are real strong about separation of church and state, and they say, keep your religion over here, your political parties over here. Well, I'm not one of those people. I think if there's not any kind of threat to combining them, why not combine them if you so choose? That's your freedom to choose. But here's the problem with the Muslim Brotherhood in particular. There is a problem with combining Islam and law. It's called Sharia law. Sharia law is bad news for anyone who's not a Muslim. And I'll give you a few reasons. If you go to the Wikipedia Muslim Brotherhood website, it summarizes their ideology pretty well in a column on the right-hand side. Although you can do a lot more in-depth research with credible, more credible sites, but it's a good summary here. It talks about how they are pan-Islamist. In other words, they want Sharia law around the whole world. How they are Qutbist, 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 and they encourage Islamic democracy. See, this is why I think the democracy will succeed, not fail at first, because the Muslim Brotherhood does not support strict theocracy or autocratic theocracy like, for example, Al-Qaeda does. They don't want a religious dictator, they want a religious democracy. So they'll play the democracy game and they'll take it over after that, and they're very closely tied with the Sunni movement. Anyway, so here's the problem with Qutbism is or I've heard it like Qutbism, and it doesn't translate exactly into English, so people spell it different ways, but they essentially advocate jihad, but not just jihad, the idea, which means jihad means war, but a lot of Muslims say, oh, it's a spiritual war. But Qutbism is that particular strain which says, no, it's not a spiritual war. It's a physical war, and we should, kill people. That's Qutbism. So it's like hardcore, offensive jihad, and it's waging jihad in conquest, armed conquest, like military conquest. So this is very, very radical ideology and very dangerous for them to be taking over a powerful nation like Libya is not right now a powerful nation, but in the absence of Gaddafi, the conversion to democracy, you'll see a lot of support by the United States. And for that to be at the mercy of an ideology like that is extremely dangerous. All right, so that's my prediction, is that the democracy will succeed. It will be overtaken by the Muslim Brotherhood in some form, although probably not a pure form. Some form of Sharia law will be enacted in Libya, and it wouldn't surprise me if very quickly in the next 10 years or so you see some really radical either uprisings within Libya itself against the theocratic democracy, or if everyone's on board with it and the country of Libya uprises against other countries. Neither one of those would surprise me. Feel free to comment. And yeah, I thought I'd touch on a political thing. And it's in the news, so there you go. Take care.